When you think about GDPR compliance, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's gotta be those cookie banners, right? And the super long privacy policies we all scroll past. But what if I told you the biggest risk, the one with fines in the hundreds of millions, is actually hiding in plain sight? Okay, let's get into it. For years now, the entire industry has been pouring time, money, and energy into these really visible things: the consent pop-ups, the data agreements, all that stuff. And look, those things are absolutely necessary, don't get me wrong, but focusing only on them has created a massive, and I mean massive, blind spot. It turns out the biggest danger to your compliance isn't about the policies you write down. It's about the products you actually build. There's a fundamental piece of the GDPR that's been, well, kind of ignored for a while. And now, regulators are using it to hand out some seriously eye-watering fines. So this leads us to the million-dollar question, or in this case, the hundreds of millions of dollars question. What is the single most expensive mistake you can make in data privacy right now? And here's a hint. It's not what you think. It's not a data breach in the classic sense. It's a flaw that's built right into the system from the start. The mistake is ignoring Article 25 of the GDPR. For a long time, everyone kind of saw this as a soft rule, more of a suggestion. But that has completely changed. It's now one of the most powerful enforcement tools they have. Understanding this article isn't just about compliance anymore. It's about survival. So what exactly is Article 25? The official title is Data Protection by Design and by Default. In plain English, it means you can't treat privacy as an afterthought. It's not a legal sticker you can just slap onto a finished product. It has to be baked into the very blueprint of your systems, right from day one. This basically turns privacy from a lawyer's problem into an engineer's job. To really wrap your head around this, you have to understand its two core pillars. These two ideas are what make this whole approach work. Think of it like this. By design is the architectural blueprint. It's about proactively planning for privacy from the very beginning. By default, on the other hand, is the result. It's how things are set up automatically, right out of the box, before the user touches a single setting. Let's dig into each of these a little more. So, data protection by design means that from the very first sketch on a whiteboard, you're thinking about privacy. It's not a feature you add in later. It's a fundamental part of the system's DNA. And this isn't a set it and forget it kind of thing. You have to constantly make sure your design is keeping up with the latest technology and security standards, the state of the art. And then you have data protection by default. This is where your good design pays off in the real world. It means the most private, most secure settings are turned on automatically. The system should collect the absolute minimum data it needs, restrict who can see that data, and get rid of it as soon as possible. The key thing is, the user doesn't have to lift a finger to be protected. Okay, I know this can all sound a little abstract, but the cost of getting this wrong is anything but. Let's look at what happens when these architectural principles are ignored, because the penalties are staggering. Case in point, Meta. They got slapped with a €265 million fine. And this wasn't for some sophisticated hack or a data breach. This was a textbook failure of the first pillar, data protection by design. So what happened? Regulators discovered the Facebook's own tools were built in a way that just left the door wide open for data scraping. This wasn't an attack that broke through their defenses. No, it was a totally foreseeable risk that was baked right into the system's architecture, and it ended up exposing the data of more than 500 million users. And if you think that number was big, it gets bigger. TikTok got hit with a €345 million fine for breaking the second pillar, data protection by default. The problem here was alarmingly simple. When kids signed up for TikTok, their accounts were automatically, by default, set to public. That meant their videos, their profiles, everything was instantly available to anyone in the world. It was a complete failure to provide the most protective setting by default, especially for some of the most vulnerable users out there. So you can see the pattern emerging, right? Regulators aren't just reacting to the symptoms anymore, like a data breach. They are digging way deeper and going after the root cause, the fundamental design flaws in the system that made the problem possible to begin with. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This is a GDPR thing, a Europe thing. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not the case anymore. These principles are going global and fast. Just take a look. The core concepts from Article 25 are popping up everywhere. In California, they talk about data minimization. In Brazil, their law demands security measures from the design phase. They might use different words, but trust me, it's the exact same philosophy. And here's the strategic takeaway. If you build your systems to meet the very high bars set by the GDPR, you're not just making your lawyers happy in Europe. You're basically future-proofing your entire organization against this new wave of privacy laws that's sweeping the globe. Okay, so this is the new standard. The final critical question is, how do you actually do this? How do you take these ideas off of a legal document and turn them into something your teams do every single day? It really boils down to 3 key steps. First, you have to weave privacy directly into your development cycle. That means doing things like privacy impact assessments during your coding sprints, not as a final roadblock before you launch. Second, you need to use proven tech safeguards like differential privacy so you can analyze data without seeing who individuals are. And third, adopt well-known frameworks like the one from NIST to give your engineers a clear, repeatable playbook. At the end of the day, all of this signals a really fundamental shift in mindset. Privacy is no longer just a legal task that you can hand off and forget about. It has to be treated as a core engineering discipline. Every bit as important as your system's performance or its security. And that really leaves us with one powerful final thought. The message coming from regulators couldn't be any louder or clearer. If you fail to design for privacy, you should design a plan for paying the fine.